Never thought I'd be putting cool and turbo and caravan in the same sentence, but here we are. This is a low production vehicle that you probably haven't heard of, the Dodge Turbo Caravan. That's right, in the years 1989 and 1990, you could walk into the Dodge dealership and order a turbo van. I know that minivans usually get a bad rap for just being boring, but this thing not only had a turbo, some of them had 5-speed manual transmissions, that's just cool. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of the turbo van, I want to talk about the Caravan for a second. This thing was super significant when it first came out. It's responsible for a lot of things. It invented a new market. It saved Chrysler. And its inventor, Lee Iacocca, being the genius that he was, thought of a whole new way to transport families around. Because before this, we had station wagons, which were a big thing in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s up until this point. And other than that, you really just had Broncos and Suburbans, which were basically trucks, not very family-oriented, so to speak. We didn't have CUVs or SUVs or anything of that sort back then, so this was a one-of-a-kind thing when it was brand new, and it really took over whenever it first came out. One other quick note on the Caravan, this was on a variant of the K-Car platform, something that you've probably heard of because it was very popular among Chrysler products in the 80s and the 90s. This was on what's called the S chassis, and it had a short wheelbase variant like what you see here, the Caravan, and a long wheelbase version known as the Grand Caravan, which did not come out until 1987. All right, let's get into the specs of the turbo van. So this was a 2.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, making 150 horsepower and 180 foot-pounds of torque. That is not a lot by today's standards, and it's still slow by today's standards. It's fine. But back in the day with the 5-speed manual transmission, this would go 0 to 60 in about 9 seconds, which was significantly faster than a lot of other vans and way faster than other variants of the Caravan. So even though it's slow by today's standards, that was pretty cool for back in the day. And you got to play with a 4-cylinder turbo with a 5-speed. I mean, that's just a win. What's crazy is this is actually super rare. They only made 400 units between 1989 and 1990 of specifically the turbo with the 5-speed, which makes this thing, dare I say, collectible for a minivan. It makes it a halo van. And I don't think that's ever been put in the same sentence before, but if you're somebody that's a fanboy of the first generation Chrysler minivans, which I don't blame you. There were hundreds of thousands of us that rode around in them as kids in the 90s. So there's got to be people that feel, some sort of nostalgia for these things and still like them to this day. So there have been examples actually sell for $13,000 on Cars and Biz. Now, some may have sold for more. I don't know. I couldn't find any more, but it's still pretty cool for what it was. Before I go, quick shout out to all of those people that watched the Dodge Spirit RT video and commented that I needed to do one on this van because this was actually a lot of fun and I really enjoyed learning more about the Caravan.